Are you a female solo traveler considering hitting the road in an RV or a van? This video covers 30 essential safety tips that will make you feel more comfortable and more confident during your adventures. From choosing safe campgrounds to safeguarding your belongings, I've got you covered. Join me as I share both practical advice and personal experience to make sure your journey is both enjoyable and safe. Whether you're a seasoned traveler or a newbie, these tips are crucial for navigating the unique challenges of solo RV or van travel as a woman. Hey, I'm Nancy, and I make videos about my 55-plus solo RV life as I travel the U.S. in my Lazy Days Class C with 2 dogs and a cat. According to USA Today and an NRVA census report, in 2023, about 29% of all RV owners are women. This was up from just 13% in 2021. I'll put a link to the article in the description below. Even if I wasn't too worried when I first started, my family and friends were very concerned, especially my dad, who has since come around to see that living solo in an RV and traveling across the U.S. isn't any less safe than living in a home when you take precautions to stay safe and learn to follow your intuition. I'm going to divide these tips into 4 categories: camping, travel, general, and hiking alone. First, we will start with the biggest one, campground safety. Tip number 1, always research your campground or RV park before arriving, which means knowing where you're going to spend the night. Check the reviews of the campsite before you make your reservations. This year, I double-checked the reviews of one of the campgrounds the night before I was set to go there, and I saw that the most recent reviews were horrible. They were all about this year after I had made my initial reservation 3 months ago. To say I was concerned was an understatement. I thought it might actually be the first campground I left and didn't stay in. And I started to put some backup campsites in place just in case. But because I had paid for it in advance, I checked it out, and it actually turned out to be one of my favorite campgrounds. It was remote, and it was a camp, not a resort. But I had full hookups, my internet was good, and I had a coded entry gate, which concerned me a little bit that I needed to have a coded entry gate in the middle of nowhere. But when I asked later to find out why the gate was coded, it was to keep out some of the people without reservations from using the boat launch on the property. And it was on a beautiful lake with a very interesting history. Tip number 2, don't hesitate to leave if you're not comfortable, even if you've already paid for the site. Money is replaceable, you are not. I like to get to the campsite early so I can take the dogs for a walk and feel out the area. If you get there after dark, it's harder to make that determination. So if your spidey senses are tingly and you're really getting bad vibes, it's okay to leave. That's why we have wheels. I travel in a Class C RV that I can hop right into the front of the cab and leave immediately if I have to, even if I have to rip the electric and the water connections out as I drive away. Hopefully, I'll never have to do that, but I know it's an option if I need it. Tip number 3, always have your RV or your towing vehicle facing the street or the exit for an easy escape. And if you're towing a vehicle, don't block your drivable RV in. Plan your escape. I've had a lot of sites where it's a very tight squeeze to park my RV and my Jeep next to each other. But I want to know that I can always hop in the RV at a moment's notice and leave. Don't block your exit route unless you're super familiar and comfortable with the campground you're in. And even then, avoid blocking your exit route if you can. Tip number 4, know where you are, your campground name, the address, your site number, as well as the local emergency number and the closest hospital. It doesn't hurt to know who the local veterinarian is either if you are traveling with pets. Tip number 5, and this is something that really has been brought to the top of my mind this year. Know your bug out area. Find your bug out spot in case you have to leave immediately, primarily for storms like tornadoes. And have a small bag of necessities for you and your pets if you have to leave your RV quickly. Tip number 6, always leave your keys near your bed. If you hear someone at night or you're nervous, you can always set off your car alarm or honk your horn. Tip number 7, lock your doors and windows every night. I even lock my door when I'm in my RV. I know it's probably overkill, but it's a small area and I don't want someone to open the door and come in and I have no way to get out quickly. I love to sleep with the windows open. However, I've learned that I can leave the vents open on the top of my RV and have a similar effect while staying safer in my RV. Tip number 8, and this is one I see all the time: close your curtains and shades at night so that people can't see in your RV. If the lights are off, I can see out without anyone knowing I'm looking at them or anyone seeing in. But if the lights are on, everyone can see my business. Tip number 9, know all of the escape routes in your RV. All the doors, the windows, the escape hatches, and make sure that they work. Tip number 10, have enough fire extinguishers placed throughout your RV and make sure they are current and up to date and that they work. I also have one of those fireball extinguishers near my bed that I can toss onto flames to help extinguish them and give me a few extra seconds to get out of the RV with my pets. Tip number 11, get to know your neighbors if you can. Other than making some new great friends, once you've met them, they're more likely to keep their eye on your RV when you're not home. Tip number 12, have security cameras if possible. Mine are magnetic, so I can use them in multiple places, both inside and outside of the RV. Inside, I use them to check up on my dogs when I'm not home, and outside, all they've really picked up is local wildlife. I did write a blog post on keeping your pet safe while traveling in your RV or van, and I will post the link to that in the description below. Tip number 13, another pet tip. If you have pets, put your phone number on one of those pet emergency stickers on a window so that people can see it from outside of your RV or van. Many pets might have been saved if the owner could have been reached in an emergency. I'd rather have someone get my phone number and have to block them than to have someone not be able to reach me in an emergency if I'm not there. Tip number 14, put 2 chairs outside of your RV if you set up chairs. It makes it look like you're not traveling alone. I know some women who also put out a big pair of men's work boots outside their door just to make it look like there's more people in the RV. Tip number 15, don't leave anything outside that you don't want to lose. Even if you lock things up, like an e-bike or a bicycle or an e-scooter or kayaks. Kayaks are kind of tough. If you can put those things away, they're out of sight, out of mind. Even expensive cookware if you're not going to be in your RV site all day. Okay, that's it for the campground safety tips. Let's move on to travel. Tip number 16, be mindful of the weather conditions both in the area that you're in and the area that you'll be traveling to, including rain, sleet, snow, high wind warnings, tornadoes, or hurricane watches. For example, if I know it's going to be windy on the road, I will put more water in my fresh water tank to give my RV some extra weight. I do the same thing if I'm going to be in a campground and I know it's going to be windy. It stops the RV from rocking a little bit. Knowing the conditions before you travel will allow you to be prepared and change your plans if you need to. You don't want to be moving into an area with a tornado warning, a hurricane watch, or even wildfire warnings. Tip number 17, lock all of your doors when you're getting gas. Because I'm traveling with a Jeep on a tow dolly, I check to tighten the tow dolly straps every time I stop, which means I get out of my RV with a big wrench in my hands that could be used as a weapon if I needed to. That's not why I do it, but as I was tightening the straps at a gas station one day, I did think how odd it must look for this woman to be walking around getting gas with a wrench in her hands. I would probably think twice before approaching me. Tip number 18, check your tires before every trip and every time you stop on a travel day. Are they wearing badly or are they cracking? Is the tire pressure low or are they really hot? Better to check than to get stranded on the road and have to call a tow truck. And trust me, sometimes you will need that tow truck no matter how much you check or how prepared you think you are. Which leads me to number 19, have the correct roadside assistance program for the rig you're in and know how to use it. If you have an RV and a towed vehicle, make sure you have the correct roadside assistance for each one. I've gotten pretty good at being able to change tires both on my tow dolly and on my Jeep. I'm still working on changing the tires on the RV, and maybe I'll get there someday, and it will save me a lot of money when I can do those things by myself. Tip number 20, I travel during the day and I try to travel no more than 4 hours at a time. That way, if I'm stuck, it's easier to get roadside assistance and still get to the next campground before dark. Tip number 21, if I do need roadside assistance, right after I call them, I let my family know exactly where I am and what's going on. You can drop a pin on Google Maps and share it. I also have some family members set up with Find My Friends so they can see my exact location. Tip number 22, and this is something I've been more aware of recently. With some of the stories that I've heard about things going on in rest stops lately, I've started to limit the dog walk stops. I usually don't travel more than 3 or 4 hours at a time, and I take the dogs out right before I leave. If I need to stop for me, I confirm that all the doors and windows are locked, and I use my own bathroom or I make myself something to eat right in my RV without ever having to leave the vehicle. Let's move on to general tips. Tip number 23, let someone know where you are. I make a spreadsheet with all of the campgrounds' names, addresses, phone numbers, and the dates that I'll be there, and I share it with my family. I don't know if they ever look at it, but having it makes everybody feel a little bit more comfortable, including me. Tip number 24, keep a list of emergency numbers where someone could find them easily. I keep mine on the door under my sink. Tip number 25, keep a spare set of keys in a secure location. I've been locked out of my RV more than once. Yes, it took me a couple of times to figure this out. I always thought it was a good idea, I just didn't know where to put the keys. And I'm not going to tell you where they are. Thank God for roadside assistance. Also, let someone in your family know where those keys are. Hopefully, they will never get a call from the police, but if they do, they can tell someone how to access your RV to help either you or your pets if you're not there. Tip number 26, set up your emergency contacts on your phone so that they can be accessed even when your phone is locked. Tip number 27, have the right insurance. Are you a full-timer like me or a weekend warrior? Some companies like Progressive do offer full-timers RV insurance. It's definitely more expensive than recreational RV insurance, but if something does happen and they find out that you are a full-timer on a recreational policy, things might not go the way you had planned. Also, make sure you have all the coverage you need. Read your documents carefully and understand the replacement value plus anything you might be covered for to help pay for hotels or an Airbnb if you lose use of your RV. My first year, I needed to rent a car. I didn't have a towed vehicle at that point, just my Class C RV. And this never occurred to me, but I was surprised to learn that I did not have rental car insurance on my Class C RV policy, even though it's drivable. My motorhome insurance would not cover a rental car the way car insurance would. Because I now have my Jeep, I have that coverage again, but it would have been a hard lesson to learn if I'd had an accident in a rental car with no insurance. It used to be that certain credit cards would offer that insurance as part of their plan. However, the other thing I learned is that many of them are not doing that anymore. I spent 30 minutes on the phone with my RV insurance company, and I spoke to 3 people to confirm that I did not have rental car insurance on my policy, nor was it available to add on. Tip number 28, have digital and hard copies of all your important documents. And keep the hard copies in a fireproof container. I have a soft-sided fireproof container that is easy to pack away and will hopefully protect my documents in case of a fire. Tip number 29, always keep your phone charged. Have a backup battery pack and keep that charged. You never know when you will need your phone. And even if you don't have cell service, you still may be able to reach 911 or SOS. I was even able to access Waze to see my exact location when I was in New River Gorge Park in West Virginia. I'll link to a blog post I wrote about that scary situation in the description below. One more topic and one more tip. Tip number 30. This one is actually the hardest one for me. Try to hike in an area where there are at least some people. I like to know that someone might hear me if I scream. You can also purchase your own personal GPS locator for when you're in an area without internet. Whew, that's a lot. That was a mouthful. But by following these tips, you can ensure a safe and enjoyable RV adventure. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share your own safety tips in the comments below. If you're looking for more RV travel advice and tips, be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel for more content.